We will never find any charge against this Daniel unless it is through the law of his God.
Daniel had survived the fall of Babylon and rose to be a top official under King Darius. So impeccable was his character that the king planned to appoint him chief administrator of the kingdom.
All our digging, and we find nothing. He is spotless. It's infuriating.
His only loyalty is to his God. If we can make that illegal, we have him.
Yes, a decree that for 30 days no one may pray to any god except the king.
For months, the satraps had searched for a flaw in Daniel's governance. They found nothing.
King Darius will sign it as a test of loyalty. He trusts us. He will never suspect.
And when Daniel prays to his God with the windows open, we will have him.
The trap was laid, and the law that would send an innocent man to the lions was about to be written.
O great king, the satraps of the kingdom have crafted a decree to strengthen your rule.
Let the king establish this law. For 30 days, no one shall pray to any god except you.
A fair test of loyalty. And if they pray to another,
they will be thrown to the lions, as the law of the Medes and Persians demands.
Without hesitation, King Darius took the scroll and signed it with his signet ring. The royal seal pressed into the wax, making the decree irrevocable. Heralds proclaimed it throughout the empire. For 30 days, pray only to the king or face the lion's den.
Now we wait. Daniel will never abandon his God.
3 times a day he prays with his windows open. He will not stop for any law.
The decree was set, a silent sentence waiting for the one man whose only crime was his faithfulness. A servant whispered the news to Daniel as he worked in his study. A decree forbidding prayer to any but the king.
So they finally found a way, not through my work, but through my worship.
He did not waver. At the hour of prayer, Daniel went to his upper room, as he had done for decades. He opened the windows toward Jerusalem, making no effort to hide.
O Lord, God of Israel, hear my prayer. I will not forsake your ways for any decree.
Kneeling, he poured out his heart 3 times that day, unashamed before heaven and earth.
Let them see, my allegiance is to the Most High.
The law could not touch the fortress of his soul, and so the aging servant of God sealed his own fate with obedience. Outside, hidden eyes were already watching. Otanes and Artabanus had seen all they needed. They vanished into the night toward the palace.
We have him. He prayed with his windows wide open, as if the law were straw.
The satraps burst before King Darius, their faces masks of feigned concern.
O king, you signed a decree that any who prays to another god dies. Daniel prays to his God.
Daniel, the one official I could trust implicitly. They have twisted my own law into a weapon.
The king labored till sunset to find a legal escape, but the decree could not be unwritten.
Daniel, I am trapped by my own seal. I can find no path to spare you.
Do not grieve, my king. My soul is secure in the hands of the Most High God.
The king's hand clenched on the armrest. He had no choice left. With a voice that seemed to break, he gave the order. Daniel must face the lion's den. As guards moved to bind him, King Darius stepped down from the throne.
May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you.
My times are in his hands. Peace be with you, great king.
Daniel turned and walked out, the guards a silent escort beneath a dying sun. Behind him, the king stood frozen, a sovereign powerless to save his friend. Outside the city, the lion's den gaped like a black wound in the rock.
Even in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil.
Guards halted at the entrance, where the air grew thick with the scent of beasts.
You are with me, your rod and your staff. They comfort me.
And so, with the last light, the servant of God reached the mouth of the den. Without another word, the guards lowered Daniel into the absolute darkness of the den. At the bottom, the lions stirred. Their glowing eyes emerged one by one, and a deep growl echoed. A massive male yawned, revealing rows of teeth that could crush a man's skull in an instant.
The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?
Guards rolled the massive stone over the entrance, plunging the pit into an even deeper silence. King Darius pressed his signet into the clay, his hand trembling with grief he could not hide. The royal seal locked the stone like a door that could never be opened again. Darius stood frozen, staring at the seal, unable to tear himself away. Finally, he turned away and descended the hill, a hollow shell of a king. Behind him, the den was silent, the stone cold and final. Inside the den, absolute darkness clung to the stone walls like a shroud.
Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
Then a light appeared, not of this world, and a radiant being descended with the stillness of heaven. The angels stood among the lions, and their snarls died in their throats. One great lioness lowered her head to her paws, her golden eyes losing their hunger.
He will command his angels concerning me to guard me in all my ways.
The elderly man stretched out a wrinkled hand, and a lion sniffed it gently, then lay down. The cave filled with a peace that no earthly threat could disturb.
In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety.
And so the long night passed in holy stillness, unseen by the watching world above. King Darius dismissed the musicians and refused the banquet laid before him.
I signed his death warrant with my own hand, and for nothing but flattery.
He paced the chamber, the moonlight carving shadows across the marble floor. Meanwhile, in the den, a mighty lioness lowered her great head near Daniel's lap.
He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters.
The king's bed lay untouched as he stared at the ceiling, his mind a churning storm.
Daniel, can your God save you now? I let them use my seal to kill you.
A single candle burned down to its stub, marking hour after sleepless hour. In the den, Daniel's breathing was steady, his weathered face serene in an unearthly glow. And still, the king did not sleep, his eyes fixed on the darkness. The first gray light of dawn crept under the heavy door of the king's chamber. He threw off the covers and sprang from the bed, not waiting for servants. Barefoot and disheveled, the king ran through the marble halls, his robes flying behind him. Guards at the palace gates barely had time to swing them open before he burst through. Through the waking city streets he raced, past merchants setting up their stalls in the pale light. He reached the rocky path that led to the den, his breath coming in ragged, desperate gasps. The massive sealed stone loomed ahead, still intact, still cruelly silent.
O God of Daniel, if you are real, let him be alive this morning.
His hands trembled violently as he reached out toward the royal seal. The silence from within was suffocating, a tomb for hope.
Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God been able to rescue you from the lions?
His voice echoed into the cavern, then was swallowed by an agonizing silence. The guards held their breath. The king's heart hammered against his ribs.
May the king live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions.
The sound came from the darkness, steady and unbroken, as if death itself had refused its prize.
He lives. The God of Daniel has done the impossible.
I am completely unharmed, my king, because I trusted in my God.
Tears streamed down the king's face, his guilt washing away in a flood of relief. The guards stared at each other, their torches trembling in the morning air, words from a living tomb. Daniel was alive.
Roll away the stone. Bring him out.
Guards threw their weight against the massive stone. It groaned and slid aside, grinding against the rock. The morning sun burst into the den, chasing shadows into corners. There sat Daniel, his white hair gleaming, surrounded by lions sprawled in impossible peace. With trembling hands, the soldiers lowered a rope and lifted the old man from the pit. As his feet touched the ground, the king rushed forward, seizing his shoulders. He ran his hands over Daniel's arms, turned him, searched for any wound. There was none.
Not a single scratch. Your God truly did shut their mouths.
Daniel's tunic was untorn, his skin unbroken. The lions had not so much as raised a paw against him. The guards fell back, murmuring in awe. A miracle had occurred before their eyes.
Arrest the men who accused Daniel. They plotted against me and against God.
Soldiers stormed the homes of Otanes and Artabanus, dragging them from their beds.
Wait, it was Artabanus's idea. He forced me.
But the king's decree was swift. The accusers, their wives and their children, were bound together.
By the law of the Medes and Persians, you shall face the very fate you designed for Daniel.
One by one, the guards hurled the terrified men and their families into the darkness before they even hit the ground. The lions were on them, teeth and claws in a blur of rage. The same lions that had lain quietly beside Daniel now tore the schemers apart. Daniel stood silently, his face neither vengeful nor rejoicing, only the peace of one who trusts his God. The pit fell silent again, but this time the silence was a verdict. King Darius returned to the palace, not as a sovereign, but as a humbled man.
The God of Daniel is no idol of stone. He is the living God who reaches into darkness.
He unrolled a fresh scroll, dipped his quill, and began to write a new decree for all his kingdom. To all peoples, nations, and languages across my empire, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every dominion men should tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, enduring forever. His kingdom shall never be destroyed. His dominion shall last to the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. The king pressed his signet into the wax, sealing the words that would echo across continents. Thus, the very empire that tried to silence Daniel now trumpeted the power of his God. Daniel's deliverance was no longer a secret miracle. It became the law of the land. In the great square of Babylon, a herald unrolled the king's decree as the morning sun climbed high. Hear the words of King Darius. The God of Daniel is the living God, enduring forever. The crowd, which had gathered expecting news of the old man's death, fell silent. Then, like a wave, murmurs of awe swept through the merchants, soldiers, and farmers. Some fell to their knees, lifting their hands toward the heavens, whispering the name of Daniel's God. Travelers in the square heard the news and scattered to every corner of the empire. Within days, the story would reach Egypt, India, and the distant provinces. The miracle was no longer confined to a dark cave. It belonged to the world, and at the center of it all, an old man sat quietly, still unaware of the storm his faith had unleashed. But the echo of the lion's silence was only beginning to change the world. In a quiet courtyard, away from the throne room's pomp, King Darius met Daniel alone.
Daniel, I have seen the true God with my own eyes. I was a fool to sign that decree.
Do not burden yourself, my king. The Most High uses even the schemes of men for his glory.
I want to know more of this God who commands the mouths of lions. Will you teach me?
I will show you the scrolls of my fathers, the prophecies that foretold a coming king greater than any earthly empire.
And so, in the palace garden, the king of Persia became a student of the Hebrew prophet. Then Darius issued a decree restoring Daniel to his high position, with even greater authority than before. Daniel had faced the den and emerged not only alive, but elevated. Yet his heart remained unchanged.
My soul magnifies the Lord. He has done great things for me, and holy is his name.
And in the quietness of his upper room, he still prayed toward Jerusalem 3 times a day. In the fading light, Daniel climbed the worn stone steps of his modest home. He pushed open the wooden shutters toward Jerusalem, just as he had done the day the decree was signed.
I thank you, O Lord, for you heard my cry and sent your angel to shut the lions' mouths. Not a single tooth touched me. You are my shield and my fortress.
Tears of gratitude carved silent paths down his weathered cheeks.
Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me.
The same windows that had framed his defiance now framed his deepest thanksgiving. As the sun vanished below the horizon, a profound peace settled like a mantle upon the room. His enemies were silenced, his God exalted, his faith unbroken. In that sacred silence, the old prophet remained, bathed in a light not of this world. From that simple upper room, the prophet's gaze reached across the empire to the hills of Jerusalem. A shepherd boy tending his flock looked up and saw an old man who walked with unearthly peace. The den itself became a silent testament. At its entrance, a single lion dozed. In the gardens of Babylon, Daniel gathered young men and taught them the words of the Most High. The royal archives recorded a leader whose record was spotless, even under the scrutiny of enemies. He stood as a living proof that no decree of man can override the protection of heaven. The same lions that could have devoured him now slumbered, their fury restrained by the angel's touch. And so the faith of an old exile became the compass for a generation. That shepherd boy would grow up telling his children about the night the lions were silent. For the God of Daniel is not a distant deity. He is the living God who delivers his saints. And so Daniel prospered through the final years of Darius and into the reign of Cyrus, the Persian. In the shadow of empires, he remained a faithful steward, instructing the next generation in the ways of wisdom. Each morning, as the sun rose over the desert, the aged prophet climbed the city walls.
Jerusalem, the holy mountain. My home is not here, but in the promise of your covenant.
A young shepherd, now a man, paused in his work and looked up, remembering the tales of the lion's den. For him, that old man was not just a story. He was a living monument to the power of a faithful God. Daniel never sought fame, yet kings across generations sought his counsel. The God who shut the lions' mouths had never left his side.
My times are in your hands. You have been my refuge and my strength.
Thus, the man who survived the den lived on, not merely as a survivor, but as a witness. The years carried him forward, but the night in the den stayed carved into his soul like a whisper from heaven. Long after he had drawn his last breath, his upper room stood silent, windows still open toward Jerusalem, a testament that no decree of man can silence a faith rooted in the living God. For the God who sent his angel into the darkness is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He still shuts the mouths of lions for those who trust him without reservation. He turns the roar of the beast into the silence of his peace. Daniel walked out of that den untouched because his God was with him, and he is with you in whatever den you face tonight. Therefore, fear not. The night is dark, but the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him. The night in the lion's den is over, but its truth endures forever. And so the den remains, a hollow in the rock beneath the vast Persian sky. Its walls still echo with the silence of that miraculous night. The great stone, now weathered, stands as a monument to surrendered power, and the constellations that witnessed the angel's descent still wheel overhead. It is all recorded, not as legend, but as holy writ. Daniel, chapter 6. A testimony sealed by the hand of a pagan king for all generations. The same God who closed the lion's jaws watches over your night. The same spirit that filled Daniel's prayers fills the hearts of those who call upon him. And so we leave the prophet, not in the den, but in the eternal care of the Most High. The story is written. The God of Daniel lives. Silence returns to the den, deeper now than stone or shadow. A great lion rests at the mouth of the cave, no longer a hunter, but a sentinel of peace. His mane catches the silver light, and his breathing is slow, untroubled. Above, the heavens wheel in their ancient dance, indifferent to the empires below. Then, a sudden streak of light, a shooting star, cuts across the darkness. It blazes for an instant, a silent herald of something beyond our sight. The lion raises his head, following the glimmer until it vanishes into the eternal night. Then stillness returns, deeper than before. In that quiet, the promise of the den remains. No night is too dark, no beast too fierce. The God who watched over Daniel watches still, and so the story of Daniel finds its final frame, not in a den of lions, but in the hearts of those who believe. The same God who shut their mouths still works wonders in the lives of the faithful today. Do not fear the nights you must face, for the angel of the Lord guards the steps of his saints. Wherever you kneel, whatever decree stands against you, remember, the Most High is near. The Lion of Judah has overcome the world, and in him, you are more than conqueror. This is the legacy of one man's unwavering faith, echoing through the corridors of time. Let it be written on your heart. The God of Daniel is the God of the impossible. May you walk in his peace, unafraid of any den, as you trust in his unfailing love. For this story is not merely history. It is an invitation to your own deliverance. The night in the lion's den is over, but the truth of Daniel's God endures forever. Amen.